Hey guys, Karma Sculpting back again once again, and this week's video is that Wooper I promised you last week. Better yet, there's two! To start off, I rolled out his oblong head, poked out a couple of eye holes, and dug out a very cheerful smile. This Wooper in particular was going to be the Paldean version. Originally, he was going to be the only one I made. But his design was so simple, I might as well have made both, right? His body is kind of in the shape of a teardrop or a raindrop, and in the process of making this little fella, I realized Wooper's really gotta have balance, not to fall over all the time, because he's definitely top heavy. Maybe that's what this thick tail is for. Keep him balanced so he doesn't always just fall face first into the dirt. And here, while I was rolling out his feet, I kind of wanted to give him the pose as if he was leaping upward. I mean, come on, after giving him that gleeful smile, he really had to be looking like he was having the time of his life. Now, for his last bit of detail that didn't come through the paint job, were these, I guess, bone-shaped antenna, or whiskers, or his gills. I don't know what these are meant to be. Anyway, they were easy to make, hard to stick together. And here's where I decided to make the other Wooper. Same design, same concept, different antenna whisker gill thingies, and he's totally rocking the Pogger's face. As for the base I just showed off, the portion of me cutting it down to this size was unfortunately scrapped. Something had gotten on the lens of my camera and all of it looked horrid. Let's just say I'm very happy I caught it when I did. But back to business, I went ahead and covered the entire thing in tile grout. This gave it a little bit more of an earthy texture rather than the flatness of the XPS foam. And then I chucked in a couple of rocks, made a couple blades of grass, and finally that little wave splash thing you just saw me sculpt. That tiny wave is why I'm mixing up the silicone. I wanted to make a mold so that I could resin cast that same shape. Quick and easy, but boy is the good stuff expensive. While the silicone was curing, I went ahead and started painting both of these little fellas. The Jotonian Wooper is getting a base white coat entirely through. Meanwhile, the Paldean version is mostly black base coat, with some white for his antenna gill things. Help me out, would you? What are these? Is the information in like a Pokedex description? Oof, there I go again, getting distracted. After Paldean Wooper got his brown outer coat, he also got his new belly design, which in my honest opinion looks like somebody tried to gut him and these are stitched closed. Yikes, that was kind of morbid. And this question may be answered when it comes out, but does anybody know what that symbol signalizes? I mean, original Wooper just kind of looks like he's got, I don't know, Wi-Fi bars on his belly. And believe it or not, the eyes and these antenna gill thingies are actually the hardest part to paint. I had to be super careful to stay inside the lines. But isn't he adorable? But Jotonian Wooper is the exact same deal, except instead of brown and pink, it's blue and pink. Fun fact about me, a lot of water ground types are easily within my top 20 list of Pokemon. I mean, come on, Gastrodon is my favorite water ground type, Quagsire is really cool, just a little derpy salamander, I think. Oh, and can't forget Seismitoad, he's also up there. Funnily enough, they're all only weak to my favorite typing, grass. I can't even lie, I really enjoy the expressions I gave these guys. Sadly, I had to put them away to paint the base as well. I started off with a black paint and Mod Podge mix to give the outer layer a nice heavy coat. The small blades of grass were also given the same treatment, except obviously with white paint, all before being painted a deep green. I won't say the real name of this paint because I don't think it's allowed on YouTube. The brown coloring I am using is raw umber, if I remember correctly. It tends to be the first layer of brown that I use, so I'm just assuming I did it here too. And to give a touch more color to the muddy earth here, I painted several of these stones a slate gray. Then added a hint of red to my raw umber and gave it a slight dry brushing over the top to give it more of a clay earth tone. The next day, my resin pour was finally done. I placed it in that slight groove I had made, all before pouring the rest of the resin on top. Now I know I should have waited, but I was impatient. But I went ahead and UV resined in both of the Woopers. I wanted to go ahead and start adding the UV resin droplets as if the Paldean Wooper was leaping out of the water, still dripping. I learned this technique when trying to do the same effect for my Kyogre video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's one of my favorites. This part right here with the water scenics is why this video was a week late. While it usually only takes about 24 hours or so to cure, it took almost 3 days for all the white to disappear. But when it did, voila. Allow me to introduce Wooper and its Paldean counterpart, Pooper! Thank you, Internet. I hate it. Anyway, how'd I do? Anybody else out there love these cute little axolotls? I fell in love with Wooper back watching the Johto episodes of the anime when I was a kid still. Oof, dating myself a little bit there. But that being said, watching it as an adult, I can guarantee you my parents were annoyed with that episode. Just go watch it if you haven't seen it in forever, or just a clip, something. Entirely too much Wooper. We'll say that. Too many Wooper noises. Alright, if anybody is still listening at this point, you guys are the real MVPs. If you wouldn't mind, smash that like button, maybe hit the subscribe button while you're down there. I myself would be very thankful if any of y'all could do that for me. And starting next week, we are going ahead with the Mythical Meetup series, where I'm going to do several of them throughout the month of September. But until then, it's time for me to get out of here. So, Karma and Wooper and Pooper, out.